What's up, guys? We are coming at you today I got my co-pilot right here, Sloan, and she's going to help me go over this with you guys. So today we're going to look at the 2017 Strada Bianca, mainly because that's like one of the first big pro races that's coming up. And also it is one of a race that's really similar to most of the events that you guys are going to have out there. So most of you are doing, either road or gravel or mountain bike with a lot of rolling hills, a lot of turns, different surfaces, a lot of competitive racing as well. So I thought we could look at this race and really dig deep into it, kind of show you guys what I see as a coach and a professional racer, and then kind of lay out the sport of cycling a little bit for you guys. So I am going to start this off by kind of detailing out what's going on here. So Strada Bianca is a one-day race, so similar to what you guys are doing. It's got a lot of rolling hills. It's got dirt. It's got gravel. It's got pavement, and it is truly a race that basically is a competition between punchers and classics TT. So if you follow my stuff, what's up? You want to come up here? If you follow my stuff, I believe that in the sport of cycling, there's really four players, four positions. You have climbers. That's what I was. You have classics TT riders. So that's like a Fabian Cancellara or a Tom Dumoulin or whatever. Then you have punchers. So in this case, we have Kiyokowski. You have Alaphilippe, Philippe Joubert, riders like that. And then you have classic sprinters. So that's your traditional kind of sprinter. And nowadays I call them classic sprinter because to be a good sprinter, you have to be able to perform over hard stages. So those days of just pure sprint, parade all the way to the finish line, they don't really exist. So we have the classic sprinter. Here, let's turn around here, Sloan, so you can see everybody. What do you think, Sloan? You like the classic sprinter? So classic sprinter would be like a Tom Dumoulin, or excuse me, a Tom Boonen, Greipel, these type of riders, even like a Cavendish, stuff like that. Okay, so today in what's important for you guys that when we start this off is that in Strada Bianca, this match, let's call it game or whatever in sport of cycling, is really between punchers and classics TT riders, really favoring the puncher because of the short explosive climbs. There can be climbers in the mix. There can be classic sprinters in the mix, but mainly those riders they don't really have the qualities to perform super well in this type of an event. So we're really going to see this type of rider be more of a domestica helper in races. So for you particularly, like based on what you compete and what you race in, it's important for you to think about it and say, okay, what is the the competition here? What type of rider does it face? What kind of strategy do I have to work with? So here, we're going to start this off, see if I can hit play. And we're starting off with, towards the end of the race, there's a breakaway. And why I really like this race is it's really similar to what you guys experience, where it's just explosive the whole race. It's an attrition all the way down to the finish line. It's not like a wait till the very end and nail it down, which you see a lot of pro races. It really is attack after attack, surge after surge, move after move. And so here we can see the front group. First thing I want to bring to your attention here is the rider type. So we have Stibar here, who is more of a classics TT rider, but kind of we could call him a puncher, I guess. We have Kiyokowski, who's a puncher. We have Dumoulin, who's a classics TT rider. We have Van Avermaet, who's a puncher. And then we have a couple other riders that are, looks like they're, we have, I think Tim Wellens, who is a puncher. So majority in the group here is punchers minus Dumoulin. So what's important for you guys to see there is the selection really is going to come down to the type of rider that's favored. So here we have a little bit further back. You can see here we have a climber with Thibaut Pinot. We have some Classics TT riders in there. So you can see that the rider position that the event favors and the timing, this is the end of the event after so many climbs, you can see that they're always going to rise to the top. So here's a traditional move that you guys are very familiar with. People sit up, people take advantage of it. So here's an important thing. What I want you guys to see is clearly Kiyokowski here is one of the stronger riders, and he is very motivated to win this race. You can see that he is constantly already, putting in surges, putting in moves. That what we just saw there is one of our moves we call the pavement melter, where you do a short surge and then a long surge back to back. And you can see that even though that there's an established breakaways here, we're close to the end of the race. You can see that the riders are really, they're really shuffling. They're really putting moves in. You can see that they're trying to break it all apart. This is what you guys are going to see a lot in your races as well. So the key thing that I want you guys to take away from this is, just because there's selections, just because you have a break does not mean that you should stop there, right? Like, you're constantly looking for the right group. You're constantly looking to really put the other riders on the back foot and push it. So here you can see there's a Orica Green Edge rider as well in there. That's Classics TT rider. You can see that in that situation where there's explosive efforts, the punchers are already going to the front, and then you have the Classics TT riders that are having to almost ride a smoother, more defensive match. So that then brings me to the next point that I wanted to bring you guys to, that when we're having a race like this, you're basically going to have an offense and defense, right? So in general, in this case, with the short climbs and then the steep climbs, right, you're going to have the punchers that are going to be offense on the steep climbs, and then you're going to have the Classics TT riders that are going to be defense on the steep climbs but offense on the transitions. So here we can see right here another move on the flat road. The Katusha rider lit it up. He's a Classics TT rider. And you can see that all the riders are responding, which is really, really important. You don't see any sort of games, anything like that. The riders are just going straight into they're going straight into the attack or the short surge, long surge to close that gap, right? So, basically what we're going to see here between the two rider types is you're going to see combinations of short surges and long surges as people are trying to split the group up. Here we have a short surge over the top of this climb. You're going to have long surges like we just saw on the transitions from climb to flat. And you're also going to have plays, which are combinations of zones put together, right? But at this point, really in the race, the riders are trying to form a selection. They're trying to get that last group that we're going to see go all the way to the finish line. Very similar in your races as well. The key players are going to keep hitting. They're going to keep attacking until they get to a spot where they're comfortable in that move. So here we have a puncher, Classics TT rider. You can already see the difference. The puncher is trying to take charge on the short climb. Classics TT rider is trying to ride smooth and keep in the zones, while the puncher is exploding up the climb, trying to put everyone in difficulty. Here's the climb here. I'm gonna do some stuff here. I wonder if I can hit pause. Okay, so real quick, we're gonna just look at body position here. We can see elbows coming in on the downstroke, really important. Heels are up on the upstroke. We have the thumbs that are forward and around the brake lever. So those are key cinch body positions. We see it from the lead rider. We see it from the Classics TT rider. One of the big things that I have coming in, a lot of questions I have in the coaching, is, people are like, well, I'm a big rider, it's not efficient for me to stand. Well, you got to learn how to stand, because it's really part of the game. It's part of how it all works, right? So in this case, in order for these riders to make it up this steep gradient, they have to stand. Okay, and you have the puncher attacking the Classics TT rider. Offense, puncher; defense, Classics TT. He's marking him. He's staying in position, trying to stay in those zones, and he's having to stand. Okay, so that was good. We also see the chin over the front hub. That is to get the optimal body weight going into that downstroke, also with balance, with the terrain being steep. So key thing though, again, is that weight going into that downstroke, which is helping. All right, so let's move forward here. We're going up the climb. All of a sudden we see here Kwiatkowski coming up. You see the offense here of the puncher, and you see the defense of Dumoulin and the Classics TT riders. He sees an opportunity here to make a surge, to split things up. What's super important about this move that Kwiatkowski's making is it's at the top of the climb. All right, we call this the climb closer, a 30-second surge followed by a 1-minute effort. And it looks like he used probably a little bit less of this. Now, I put this in here. I thought this is really good. This is so we just had Dumoulin on the defense, and now he just went straight over the top of Kwiatkowski onto the offense on the transition from the climb to the downhill. So this is important for you guys to think like, okay, if I'm a Classics TT rider and the punchers are smashing me on the climbs, well, it doesn't mean that you have to sit there and take it. You can then throw an attack right after it. You can see by Dumoulin's move, it's already split the peloton up into pieces, or what was it left of that front group. You see a selection. And here is another move, a counterattack by a puncher, short surge up this climb, and he countered Dumoulin's move. So again, very smart move. We're going to see a lot of this in your racing. Counterattack, counterattack, counterattack. You've seen Dumoulin way back here now because of his move. He had to try it. It was a good move, but because of the nature of this course with so many back-to-back, there it is right there. There's the move. We're seeing it because there's so many back-to-back climbs. It really, really favors the punchers. So there's not that much room for the Classics TT riders. Now we see Kwiatkowski come straight to the front and push hard here. Look at these body positions. You can see they're all in the seated power climbs body position. Elbows bent, pelvis rotated forward, a little bit further forward on the seat. You can see that there, getting that torque over the cranks, which is really good. You can see that thumb position, super, super good there. Everyone's doing a fantastic job shuffling around here. Sloane's really excited. I'm actually going to give Sloane to her grandma at this moment. Thanks, Sloane, for helping me co-coach here this video. Here we are on a climb later on. Now, what's cool about this part of the race that I wanted to show you guys is we have the break that we just saw that was come from all the counterattacks from the punchers, essentially counterattacking one another and Dumoulin. Here's Dumoulin using a long surge of his own to close the gap on this climb. Really smart move on his part, using the climb to cross the gap to the front riders. And what's really important for you guys to take note is when you have a move like this, you're going to cross the gap like he did. You have to get there at the top of the climb like he did. See, he arrived here in the front group. You can see that they're all resting. That enables him to be protected if they ever attack. And he goes straight on the counterattack there. Really good move on the downhill. Again, we call this the pavement melter. What I wanted you guys to look at here is this line selection on the downhill. Wide, goes wide, and then cuts inside on every single turn. So really, really difficult to do if you're not really thinking about line selection on the downhills. But here you can see him really, really putting the pressure on, trying to blow this thing apart. Watch him in these corners. Super, super important. You can see he surfs over the top of that. And then all of a sudden, here we are. We're caught. He gets caught. And this is the race-winning move here. This is a puncher just counterattacking with a traditional Classics TT move, the pavement melter. Again, That's a short surge, so to get that gap followed by a long surge. Here he is. He surges away right when those riders had caught Tom Dumoulin. They put in a big effort, and he gets a gap. And this is key. In road cycling, it's really just about, or any kind of cycling, it's really about just getting that gap and then managing it. So here he is, Kwiatkowski, puncher, great technique. You can see a seated power climbs body position up there. Now you can see behind, this is why the gap works, is because people don't commit to go all in to that gap. They're going to attack each other. They're going to surge. You can see down here, they were disorganized. That allowed him to get an immediate 20-second gap straight away. What I want you guys to see here, I'm going to pause this. Well, hold on. We're going to go here. We're going to pause it. Really important. He's now in the seated acceleration flats body position. He's opening up his gap. He's putting some more time in here. You can see that the forearms are parallel to the ground, to the top tube, essentially. Thumbs are on top of the shifters. That's enabling him to get more torque and leverage with his bike. He's forward on his seat. His pelvis is rotated forward, and he is using a higher cadence to accelerate in this moment, right? So he is opening up the gap. He is trying to get the gap open. Okay, we can see, look at this too, heel up on the upstroke, super, super important. Right when you get to that 5 o'clock, that heel snaps up and it goes all the way up and over. It's very hard when you fatigue, very hard at this point in the race, these body positions. You can see now he's already transitioned back to the power flats body position. This little clip I wanted to show you guys real quick. I love this. You can see this rider surges over Dumoulin. He immediately goes and covers that gap. Okay, so real quick, we're going to go back to what I was just talking about. When there are gaps in breakaways or in the peloton, it's important that you don't leave the responsibility to other people. You go and handle that yourself. Dumoulin, who had just pulled, was falling back. One of the teammates surges on him. He immediately goes and gets on that wheel. Super, super, super important because that is really, at the end of the day, what saves him energy, right? He's not going to have to chase that rider back down. That rider's not going to get away, and that group still holds it. So want to look at this cornering technique of Kwiatkowski. Super, super important. We have wet roads, greasy roads. So this goes for gravel racing. This goes for mountain biking. This goes for road cycling. For cornering, you always want to go wide and then cut to the inside. This particular turn is almost like a 180-degree turn, so it's going to require really smart placement, and that's why I want to show you guys. So he's entering the turn. He's gone wide. The first thing you do after you go wide is you take that inside knee and you stick it out, right? So there it is. Boom. Then you drop your bike, your frame in towards that knee, and you shift your body, your center of gravity over the hubs, over the tires. And basically that's going to make your bike handle as if it's going in a straight line. So you have your weight over an equal amount of rubber on the tire that's perpendicular to the pavement. It's going to handle as if your bike is going straight, even though it's turning. So really, really important. If you're going straight and you hit gravel, no problem. If you hit wet roads, no problem. If you have to slow down, you can slow down faster. So this cornering technique really enables you to control your bike a lot better, a lot safer. And in Europe, and these roundabouts are so greasy, they're so sketchy. You can see now that he's got his line, he's going to use dropping the bike as the way for him to tighten up his line or extend his line. So we're going to look at this a little bit more here. Boom. You can see he's dropped the bike a little bit more. Since he went so wide, now he can cut nicely in and he can go right to the inside of that corner beautifully. You can see he's shifted his weight over the bike, so the center of gravity is in the right spot. And here he is going in, boom, inside of the turn. Perfect placement here. No problem. If there's any grease or there's anything in that roundabout, he's going to be okay. And we'll watch him keep making this corner. Now, like I said, this is 180. It's a tricky corner. And because of that, you almost have to go wide, inside twice. So you can see that he went inside. Now he's having to go wide again for the last part of the roundabout. And he's going to lean that bike over again so he can get back over. All right. So pretty difficult move that he did right there. And the last part of cornering that's really important is getting your speed up as soon as you exit the turn. So entrance speed is not as important as exit speed. So every single turn, you want to almost go more conservative on the entrance so you can take a better line selection, so you're a little bit more cautious, so you can get all the technique down. And then exit, as you can see, he's sprinting is so important. You get your speed up. And you're going to hold that speed here. Another technique example here again, wide and then cut inside. Boom, nails this. 2 turns there, goes wide on the exit after he's already gone inside. But what's important to note there is that he had the room there. Okay, real quick, back on that cornering concept real quickly. So he's exiting the turn on the inside. Once you exit the turn on the inside, if you have a clear view of the road, then you can drift even a little bit wider like he did to carry more speed out of it. So you'll see him go wide inside, and then he'll kind of drift to the outside after he's already exited the turn. That's to help him carry more momentum. Totally good technique, but it's only possible if you exit on the inside and then can swing wide. You know you're safe. You know there's nothing in the road. You know you've already cleared the turn. So now we're on the last climb. I wanted to show you guys something real quick. Important climbing technique here in a group. You can see that and I always talk about this in my cinch rants or whatever, but really important that when you're following other riders that you're not directly behind the wheel. So I see so many riders in group rides, on climbs, wherever, following right behind the wheel. And it's important for you to be off to one side. Now, people tell you don't overlap wheels. That's BS. The key is that you can overlap wheels, but you have your bailout. Okay, so we have 3 riders. They are set up, in 3 different areas on this climb. We can see beautifully from behind here. Now, Wellens, if he needs to, he can shoot out the right side. Van Avermaet, if he needs to, he can shoot out the right side as well because Wellens is behind here. And Homie up here, if he needs to shoot out one side or the other, he can go left. All right, Stibar. So, he's probably not going to go this direction. He could, but if he has a problem, he's probably going to go left. He's going to go right, and he's going to go right. So when you set up your positioning on a climb or behind the other riders, you're already planning out your movement. If you come into a grocery store and you go into another rider or another person down the aisle, and you kind of get in that little like standoff thing. Same in cycling, right? If you haven't already planned where you're going to go. So here, there's only one way, these guys, only one place they can go. So if there's a problem, you're not going to have that weird standoff thing that you see that causes a lot of group ride crashes and race crashes, is people start to see someone crash or struggle, and they don't even know which way to go. So this shows you that. And the reason why they're off to one side is it helps them smooth it out. So say Stibar's throwing a big surge, Van Avermaet can let him go a little bit. Or say Stibar slows down a little bit, Van Avermaet can come up on him. When you ride directly behind the wheel in front of you, you're constantly almost running into it. And that's what causes that super surgy stuff that people can't stand. You can't do that at this level. You definitely can't do that on climbs. You want to keep it as smooth as possible. So here we are, last climb, Strada Bianca. Super important here. Let's watch their climbing techniques. Steep climb, been going for a long time. And again, last climb, these guys are going to work on all technique, and they're going to use their explosive zones. Even though Homie Kiyokowski's off the front, it's really important for him to stay in the zones, to try and execute as well as possible, because these guys are going to be coming up strongly from behind. So again, you can see that positioning. You can see that Wellens has moved off to one side here, a different side, which is okay. And here we have Kiyokowski off the front. Now he's doing the climb closer. Again, let's look at his technique. You can see that elbow coming in on the downstroke. You can see the heels up. You can see the chest low and over the front of the bike. Chin is going to be over that. And then you're going to see high cadence. So he's in one of his explosive zones right now. Most likely we call it nuclear and cinch. It's about a 1 minute effort or whatever here. So he's all in. He's going very, very fast up this, holding his gap and, working super hard to win this race. Transitioning to a seated position here as he comes over the top, mainly because his legs are probably smoked, which is understandable. And here we go. We can see the same technique that we were just talking about. He's going to surf here. So we'll go back and talk about that. So surfing essentially is a concept of increasing the power and increasing the speed and the cadence in areas where you can get more speed out of the terrain. So in this case, we have a steep climb followed by a shallow part of the climb into the finish. So you can see that he held back a little bit at the top of the effort and then really accelerated right here in the spot to get his speed up and maintain his gap. You can see here he's going to keep the speed up and really, really push to get over this last part and get as much speed as possible. You can see these riders, they are going to do the exact same thing. They're going to time it so they're surging to that place where it levels off, and then they're actually going to raise the speed right as it levels off to hold their position, hold as much speed as possible going into this final chicane. Again, we can kind of see his wide and cut to the inside technique on these corners. Very, very important, again, with the cobbles and slick conditions. And here he comes into the finish. You can see the knee out. We can look at this technique right here very clearly. Here it is. Knee goes out. He's wide, going to cut to the inside. You can see his focal point. He's looking ahead. And here he's just going to drop this frame and drop this bike into the leg. And that's going to turn the bike. He's going to shift his center of gravity and weight over the tire so that center of gravity is perpendicular over the tire, that contact patch of the tires into the pavement. And here he goes into the turn. Boom, there it is. Beautiful cut to the inside. And he's going to accelerate back out of the turn like we talked about, even though he's won the race. Can't stop with the technique. And here he comes to the finish line. Really awesome victory by Kiyokowski, who's a puncher, who at the end of the day, we would have expected that sort of thing. And then we have two other punchers coming to the finish line, going wide on the exit there to protect the line. That's what Greg Avermaet was doing. So he could hold his second place, third place. And here comes the last puncher. So there we go. That is my take or whatever on what went down in Strada Bianca. And so again, for you guys, what I'd like you guys to pull out of all of that is, number one, look at where the match is going to be played. What type of terrain? Number two, what type of player are you? What players are in the match, in the race? And then in that particular race, who's on the offense, who's on the defense, right? Whoever is favored on that type of terrain overall is going to be typically on the offense, and whoever is sort of on the back foot is typically going to be on the defense. And if you have riders that don't really fit those things, you're going to have those riders that are going to be primarily working for other riders or trying to, do their very best. But likely it comes down to the two favored rider types for the particular match, for the particular course. And then in it, you have the execution components. You have the cornering, you have the cadence changes, you have the surfing the terrain, you have the short surge, the long surge, you have all the zone use, the timing. There's a lot. So that was a good example of how it all plays out in a professional arena. But I picked that particular race because it's very, very similar to how it's going to play out in your guys' races, right? So very aggressive, lots of offense, lots of defense, continuous 1-2 punches, eventually springing one or two riders, the four riders, the best riders off. And then from there, they have to keep going and looking for opportunities to get away. So, in another last important thing I'd like to share with you guys is just in that case when you had you're probably saying, okay, Kiyokowski's a puncher. Why does he want to go solo? Well, if you look at that, it's very difficult for puncher, same rider types to go up against same rider types on their favorite terrain. So you're going to see punchers or other riders like that, similar rider types, looking for different platforms for them to leave and take off. So in that case, we had Kiyokowski, who was looking for an opportunity to use a traditional Classics TT place where Dumoulin had been attacking, for him to make his move with that pavement melter. That enabled him to get that gap. Then you had all the punchers behind having to chase. None of them like to do that. They're all worried about their last kick up to the climb. So that really helped him and favored him to stay away. So that's why it's important too for you guys to not just practice what you're good at, practice everything. So if you're a puncher, you're practicing your Classics TT plays and your Classics sprinter stuff, even your climbing stuff. If you're a Classics TT rider, you're practicing your explosive climbs and your puncher stuff, your sprint, all these other things that don't come natural. Because in the arena of cycling, the game is played this way, right? You have all rider types doing their offense, and then you're having to do defense in their areas. And then you have to look for opportunities to go on the offense between the other riders' offensive moves. So very, very cool sport. Wanted to share with you guys kind of what goes into the sport, what's behind the sport, what's going on with the strategy, and how it relates to what you guys are doing. So hope you enjoyed it. We'll do more of these. And sorry, my co-pilot got a little fussy. Hopefully she'll want to hang out a little bit longer for the next one. All right, guys, all in.